Lysander Spooner said a long time ago that the Constitution has either authorized the government that we have now, or it failed to prevent it. And of course, in Lysander Spooner's day, you know, not quite as bad off as we are today. What would you say to him if he were alive today?
I wish he had gotten the word out a little bit more. But his logic is impeccable, and it's true. Either the Constitution is incapable of protecting us from the government, or it was never intended to. People need to understand that liberty comes from the heart. We don't need the piece of paper. The piece of paper doesn't do anything except outline a list of ideas. But we have to be honorable enough to uphold those ideas. Americans don't have the integrity that we need to really live in a free country. We can point at Washington, D.C., we can complain about all the things that they are doing, but the real source of liberty is we the people. And when most people don't know how many articles are in the Constitution, I mean, it really doesn't matter what the Constitution says. I keep getting phone calls and emails asking me, well, how do I travel without a driver's license? How do I not fill out my 1040 form? And most people seem, excuse us, we're doing.
Yeah, we're filming, man, sorry.
Yeah. Most people seem to think that there's a form that they can fill out that will make the government go away and leave you alone.
Sure.
There's no form, there's no letter, there's no paperwork that's going to make you a free person. Being free is a mental attitude. And instead of trying to change Washington, D.C., my second book is called Secret to Sovereignty, and it teaches you how to change yourself. How do you need to change in order to be a free person? How can you live as a free person right now, regardless of what the government is doing? Now, it's easy to write the answers down. It's a lot harder to actually follow up.
Absolutely.
In order to do it peacefully, we have to have a large number of people. We can't have people sitting on the sidelines. We have to have everybody get involved. Okay? If people won't get involved, the smaller and smaller the group, the more likely it's going to be that it's going to require violence.
Right.
You know, one person can't stop the crowd unless they're using a gun. And so it's not up to me. It's up to the people. If the people step forward and participate, then there's a possibility of doing it peacefully. 20 years ago, if you told me that we were going to have a Patriot Act, I'd have laughed at you.
Right.
I'd have told you you were crazy. The American people would never tolerate the Patriot Act. But they did. I never would have believed that we would tolerate the Military Commissions Act, which basically eliminates, you know, habeas corpus. But we did. We've got all of these different things. We've got the Homegrown Terrorist Act, right, which makes anybody who runs around the country saying that most of what the government does is unconstitutional a homegrown terrorist. I am going to continue fighting for liberty. If I'm the last guy alive, I will probably die in a hail of gunfire. Okay? But when I die, liberty is no longer my problem.
That's right.
Given my experience over the last 30 years, Americans are lazy. They don't want to get involved. They really don't care. You know, they say that they want to take my class, but they don't want to pay for it. They say that they want, you know, freedom, but they don't want to change their lifestyle at all.
Right, right.
And so, you know, I've been with, you know, the liberty movement for so long, and all I see is apathy. You know, the people who are complaining the loudest are the people who are doing the least about it. So if the trend continues, these people are going to continue to not do anything about it, and we're going to have violence. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's because people are lazy and apathetic.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And I got to say, Michael, being in here with you and listening to your talk and listening to what you just said now, you know, it really makes people think. And I think if people watching this video and also myself standing here, I'm sitting here thinking, what have I done? You know what I mean? You want to answer that question like, I wasn't actually apathetic, but was I? So I think it's very convicting for somebody like you especially to be going around talking to people, and I appreciate that, the fact that you're doing that. I want to thank you on behalf of the Liberty Movement for what you've done.
I'm not giving the speech so that I can hear you applaud for me. I'm not in this for, to make myself feel good. I'm in this to make a difference. I can't make a difference by myself. And if my speeches don't motivate people, don't drag them off the sofa, have them turn off the TV and get involved and actually do something, then I may be really passionate, but I'm not motivational at all. But it's up to the people of the United States to decide whether they really care. Most of what our government does is unconstitutional. I find that unconscionable and totally unacceptable. And I've been working at this for 30 years.
Absolutely.
If we don't have a lot more support than we've got right now, the bad guys are going to win. But don't go looking for me at the FEMA concentration camp. Don't go walking up and down the fence to see if you can spot me. Don't go asking anybody if they've seen me, because I didn't make it.
Yeah.
I did not live long enough.
Collateral damage.
That's right.
All that I do.
It's so easy. It is so easy. I mean, how can you argue with the Constitution? How can you argue with private property rights? Nobody in their right mind would argue with that. And if I can get into the debate, I mean, I won the debate against two principled libertarians. How could I lose against the Democrats and Republicans? The hard part is not going to the White House. The hard part is going to be getting into the debate. And we can do that. We can do that. I am very excited about our possibilities. If I can get into the debate, I will win the debate.
I'd like to share a quote from George Washington. Government is not reason. Government is not eloquence. It is force. And like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. Anytime the fire is in the fireplace, it is a good fire. Anytime a fire gets outside of the fireplace, it is a bad fire. Conversely, anytime the government stays within the limitations of the Constitution, it is a good government. Anytime the government is outside the Constitution, it is a bad government, and it is time for us to stomp it out.
George Bush has yet to veto a single bill coming from Congress. And he is, rubber stamping all of the Republican agenda. But that is not the role of a president. Any law that is unconstitutional that he, has signed into law is a violation of the Constitution. We have responded to challenges. The Bill O'Reilly show has challenged anybody to debate the Patriot Act on his program. And within 30 minutes, my volunteers responded accepting Bill O'Reilly's challenge. To date, and it's been several days, Bill O'Reilly has yet to respond. I was supposed to be on Bill O'Reilly's program. Unfortunately, 4 hours before we got to New York to be in the studio, his producer called and canceled. All right, so they had late breaking news. Well, a few weeks later, O'Reilly made the challenge on the air that he would challenge anybody to a debate on the Patriot Act. Well, my staff sent a formal response back within half an hour saying that Michael Badnarik would be happy to debate Bill O'Reilly on the Patriot Act. Well, apparently Bill O'Reilly's producer has told us that we have misunderstood. Now, I don't know if we if we misunderstood the word debate or the word anybody, but apparently Bill O'Reilly doesn't want to talk to me. And I consider that good news. Imagine George Washington talking to the troops at Valley Forge. You know, guys, we've worked hard, we've come a long way, but it's really bitter cold. I mean, we're freezing to death, we have no, shoes on, and he's going to expect us to take a boat ride in this kind of weather. And even if we did, there are 600 Hessians on the other side. So we gave it a good shot, let's go back and we'll have tea and coffee, back in Monticello or something like that. Mount Vernon, excuse me. Imagine, if you will, Patrick Henry calling Thomas Jefferson, on the telephone. Hey, Thomas, I've got this really great idea. We're going to tell the king that, it's really not fair for him to pick on us because England is so much more powerful. And, we're going to basically beg for leniency, and it all ends up with, give me liberty, please. Does that even resonate with anybody? Now, how about the soldiers who invaded the beaches at Normandy? Do you think they sat around and said, well, gosh, you got all these machine gun nests, all that barbed wire, this is pretty dangerous, I don't think we ought to go? How about all those people who literally fought for liberty? I am doing everything I can to get the message out and to fight for liberty, just like the Founding Fathers. When they wrote the Declaration of Independence, they concluded that document by dedicating their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. John Earhart and I have dedicated our lives, what little fortune we have, and our sacred honor to take this campaign all the way to the election. The question is, if you were there in 1776, would you have signed the Declaration of Independence? Would you have signed on the dotted line knowing that you were possibly signing your own death warrant? How much are you willing to do for liberty? Would you like to see a government where we eliminate the IRS and let people keep their money? Would you like to eliminate the Department of Education so the teachers can actually teach our students? I mean, I've had Democrats and Republicans come up to me and tell me explicitly that they are dissatisfied with their own party. They make promises during the campaign and they get in and just continue to do the same old stuff. They are looking for another alternative. Fairly convinced, and I think that 50% of the American people are convinced, that we didn't have enough information to go into Iraq. Clearly, the White House administration is trying to shift the blame to the CIA, indicating the CIA gave them faulty information. So I don't know what the president knew or what the president believed, but I am also aware that the CIA claims that they tried to indicate that this was, marginal information and it was not hard and fast intelligence. Now that we stand at the position that we do, I think that it would be more appropriate for George Bush to, develop an exit strategy to bring our troops home, as I promised to do if I am elected. John Kerry is on record as promising to send more troops to Iraq. So to say that Kerry is less in favor of the war should not be construed to mean that he is opposed to the war. I will bring our troops home as safely and quickly as possible, with the priority being to minimize the number of injuries and fatalities in that process. Well, both the Bush and Kerry administration are strongly supporting the return of the draft. The military already has a stop-loss program, so that people in the military who are supposed to get out, their term of duty is over, the the military is rejecting that. It's not honoring that and said, I'm sorry, you're in, you don't get out unless we let you out. And so they are already trying to stem the flow of people leaving the military. And when that isn't sufficient, they are going to resume the draft, which is involuntary servitude. You do not want to be in a foxhole standing next to somebody who doesn't want to be there. You have to trust your life, with that person. And the military, men and women in the military don't want to trust their lives to somebody who really doesn't want to be there. Within a month after September 11th, Americans voluntarily contributed $5 billion to the people of New York because they understood that a terrible tragedy had occurred, and they empathized with that. And they reached into their wallets and they made sure that the people of New York had whatever money it took to kind of rebuild after the disaster. The government never does anything successfully. We had less people homeless and less people out of work before 1933 than we do now. When the government promises to give people all this money, there's a disconnect between the people who are giving the money and the people who are getting the money. In a much better system, when your neighbor is out of work, if you are concerned about your neighbor, you'll bring them in, allow them to sleep on the couch, give them a hot meal. But the assumption is that your neighbor is going to be out looking for a job. If your neighbor sits on the couch and starts watching TV all day, it's not going to be long before you basically kick them out on the street because they are not trying. The cost of government is exorbitantly high. We cannot afford the size of our government. The best way to increase jobs in this country is to get rid of as many government jobs as possible. Minimum wage does just the opposite of what it's intended to do. The minimum wage presumably is going to raise people up so that they can have more money to spend. What it actually does is put more people out of work. So instead of having $3 an hour, now they have no dollars an hour. Minimum wages raise the bar higher so that fewer people can reach the bar. And we do not want our children to take drugs, but we recognize that the war on drugs is a failure. We've been fighting the war on drugs for 5 or 6 decades, and the problem is now worse. How many people here are really confident that you can buy all the health care that you need? Not a single hand. Why not? Because the Food and Drug Administration has a 10-year testing period for drugs that cost about $1 billion. How many economics majors here can tell us who's going to pay that $1 billion? Is there any question that they're going to pass that on to you in higher prices? The government is in control of our health insurance. They decide what tests you're allowed to get, what tests you're not. And because the doctor knows that the insurance company is paying, you think they're going to charge you, maybe a few dollars extra? My mother went to the doctor for a blood test. Blood test takes 3 minutes. They take a little sample of blood. She didn't have to pay for it. The insurance company paid for it. $600 for a blood test. And you wonder why health insurance is unaffordable? Anytime you want high quality service and low prices, you have to go to the free market. Without competition, there's just basically monopoly. In any decision about your life, either you can make that decision or the government can make that decision. Who do you think would be best person to make the decisions about your life? And college-age students, depending on what grade they're in, the first question is, how many people here still live with mom and dad? And depending on the age group, there's always a percentage. Second question, how many people plan to still be living with mom and dad 5 years from now? Not a single hand. Why not? Why are you so eager to get your own apartment? Don't you love mom and dad? Why do you want your own apartment? To do stuff for myself. To make your own decisions. It's a biologically built-in process. That's what growing up is all about, is to get off on your own and make your own decisions. Well, if you don't let mom and dad make decisions for you, and presumably mom and dad love you, why would you let the government make decisions for you? Come on. Let's grow up. Let's move out of the house. Let's tell the government, sayonara, you're not going to make decisions for me anymore. You're not going to pick my health care. You're not going to pick what subjects are taught and how they're taught in my child's school. You're not going to take my money and spend it wisely for me. I'm going to do that. The biggest complaint that people have when they hear a libertarian saying, we're going to get rid of all these government agencies. What's the first complaint? What are we going to do about our old people and the poor? What's going to happen to all the people who are unfortunate? Come on. How much money did Americans give to the city of New York within 1 month of the September 11th disaster? Do you know that we voluntarily contributed $5 billion? That's with a B. You know how much $5 billion is? That's a lot of money. Was there an IRS agent knocking at your door telling you what your fair share was? Did we have police officers coming up and shaking you down for money? How did we contribute $5 billion to New York? Because we care. The best way for us to take care of the unfortunate is to make, first of all, health care affordable, get the government out of it, and then we can pay for the health care. And then if somebody really, really needs, a heart transplant, well, that's all right, I got $100, here you go. Everybody would be more fortunate with less government. Government is the problem. It is the parasite that drains your livelihood out of you. It steals half of your money and then taxes you on more than that. If we really want liberty, we need to go out and get it. We need to take it, because nobody's going to give it to us.
I didn't have my own pistol. I have a .45 Colt Gold Cut at home, which I have become very fond of. And it has a very sensitive trigger, and I'm able to, because that's the one that I'm used to. So this is an excellent weapon, but lack of practice and just unfamiliarity with the weapon, my pattern was scattered. I just want everybody to know that 20,000 gun laws in the United States are unconstitutional. They infringe on your right to protect your life, the lives of your loved ones, and your property. And if I get elected to president, all of those are gone. You will be.
I pray for my country and for friends and family, mourning in their ignorance while staying safe within a dream. I will fight for freedom and the ways of liberty. I die for my country, slaying corporate America. I show my love for thee with strength and loyalty. America, I show my love for you in all that I do. I see it in your eyes, the love you have inside. Your eyes, the love you have inside. I'll never let you down as long as I have breath. As I try to change and rearrange the promise that I have with you. And I will pick you up and send you up and set you back up on your feet. After all I've planned and no one's left, I will always be there. And be there by your side and never let you down.